Whole show going crazy. Whole show going crazy. Top 5 we debating.
Top 5, top 5, top 5. 5 Over Friends, the show where we debate our top 5 list on a topic chosen by a listener with the listener.
As usual, our friendship goes out the door once we get into it. This is 5 Over Friends.
Hey, welcome all you cool cats and kittens to 5 Over Friends. Thanks for joining us today. Our topic was suggested by one of my ex-coworkers, Andrew. So we'll take a second and welcome Andrew and let him introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Seth and Wes, for letting me on the show today. So my name's Andrew. I worked with Seth, unfortunately. We were able to work together in some misery, but I have 3 kids. I live in Kansas City. I grew up just in a little town north of here, so pretty loyal to Kansas City except for the Chiefs. Not a big fan of them. I know Seth has some issues with that.
Well, he's a Browns fan, which makes zero sense. And like, you pick a random team and you just pick the worst of them. So
Choosing to live in misery.
That's right. It can only go up.
I mean, he's wearing a KU hat right now too, so he just has bad choice in sports teams. So
Whatever.
it is what it is. Yeah, so Andrew and I worked together for several years. We actually worked there longer together than we actually knew each other, I feel like, because before I came over to my most recent position where you work, that's kind of how we met, was once I got over into the front office. So.
That's correct.
Cool. Well, so Andrew's topic suggestion today was our favorite rappers from 2000 to 2009. Actually, that wasn't necessarily his original suggestion, but like we always do, we did a little negotiating to make sure that we can kind of fit in the right time frame and allow us for some more topics in the future as we continue to move forward and grow. So with that being said, I guess we'll just get right into it. So number 5 for Andrew, go ahead and start us off.
All right, so I'm taking number 5 with Missy Elliott.
Missy Elliott.
Missy Elliott. She's my number 5. Little
What a
misdemeanor.
pick. What a pick.
That's a way to start off the cast
Starting
today.
it out with Missy.
Is there any reasoning behind
Yeah,
it?
I would
need
love to
know.
hear the reason for this.
She's my favorite female rapper, and I had to make sure I had a female in the group too.
I mean, I guess I understand.
I mean,
Didn't even think about her because I don't have a favorite female rapper, to be honest with you.
well, from that era, like, who do you have to choose from? It's like that and Lil' Kim.
I think so. I'm pretty sure
And-
that's the only 2.
There
And
you
I mean,
go.
I think Nicki got her start in 09 with Young Money, so I bet that's really that's 1 year of the decade, so I'm not saying that really counts, but.
All right. Well, what a start to the show.
Missy Elliott.
So my number 5 is 50 Cent. So 50 Cent makes my top 5. I feel like he kind of took over the world at one point with Get Rich or Die Trying. That was like the hottest album with the hottest club song of all of the 2000s, in my opinion, with In the Club. Makes sense, right? So just like when you turn on Get Rich or Die Trying, like you go back to back between the coin spinning to start the album, and then you go right into What Up Gangsta after that, and then Patiently Waiting, then Many Men, then In the Club, and then on that same album, he's got 21 Questions, PIMP,
Candy Shop.
Wangsta, like you got a ridiculous amount. Like that's, as far as like just feeling the music type rap, that's probably a top 5 album all time for me. Just I can play all the way through. And then later on in his sophomore project with Shady and Dr. Dre was Massacre, and it had 4 pretty good songs on it, I thought. Just a Little Bit, Disco Inferno, Out of Control, and Candy Shop. So as far as freshman albums go on like a major label, I don't remember a single better album ever than 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. And it was hard for him to follow that up because it was such an amazing album. I feel like it only had to go downhill from there. So that's why I picked 50 Cent, number 5 on my list. Bash me now.
I can't do any bashing because I'll go ahead with my number 5. It's 50 Cent. So yeah, I would love to bash Seth. I don't get enough chances to do it. But so yeah, like you were talking about.
My takes are so great. Come on.
Like you were talking about, In the Club, PIMP, 21 Questions, Candy Shop, Disco Inferno, just a little bit. That I think the first 3 albums there, I think were all really solid albums. Towards the end of the decade, Bulletproof and Before I Self-Destruct. I think that's the last one.
I don't remember. I stopped paying attention after Massacre.
Right.
Honestly.
So those are the I think the last 2 of the decade, and they're not great. But that knocked him down a little bit in my book. But like you said,
he was focusing too much on investing in vitamin water at that point, becoming
but
multi-millionaire.
I think that those first couple records, and several of those were still club songs, like when I was old enough to start going to clubs. So, and that was well after the 2000s time frame that it came out. So it's just like Candy Shop, In the Club, things like that were still things that played on like throwback club music.
They still bump now.
Yeah,
for me, they're still bangers. So
yeah, I think his body of work from 2000 2009, I couldn't leave him off the list. And there were several knocking at the door there that I was just like, ooh, it's there. The 2000 2009 was really a golden era for hip hop, in my opinion. Just looking back at some of these guys, so it was tough to leave some of these off the list. But 50 made it for me.
All right,
so
number 4.
I'll turn around number 4. We'll go Nelly. Yep. Country Grammar, hell of an album in my opinion. I don't know. And then Nellyville, the next one, Hot in Here, Air Force Ones, Dilemma.
Yeah, I mean he had some hits, no doubt.
I think Country Grammar, Ride With Me, EI. What else was on that one?
I just liked he was from the Lou, so he shouted out KC in some songs. So I'm like, hey, what's up?
And then
that little Band-Aid shit under his eye, like that automatically brought him down a little bit for me. He had Sweatsuit. I don't know what year that came out, but he had that.
Sweatsuit was not great.
Or that Tim McGraw song he had.
No, that was the best one.
I was about to say he had that country crossover with Tim McGraw that knocked him. That took him from 5 to 4 just there. That put him just getting that.
For you, no doubt.
That's
funny.
I was in middle school when that came out, and everybody loved that because like I'm from a country town, so it's like, oh shoot. Nelly,
you can rap to
let's go. So it was that was like on everybody's iPod in middle school. But 4.
Yeah, so my number 4 is, and I probably have this lower on the list than a lot of people might have him, but Lil Wayne is my number 4. So to start, when I think of Lil Wayne, for me personally, I think of Carter 3. Because that was like the epitome of Lil Wayne for me, and I absolutely love that album. Like when 3-Peat comes on, I don't know, I gear up, I start flexing on myself. Like, okay, here we go, we're gonna get into it real quick. He shouts out, Stuart Scott. It's just a great album. So Carter 3, super fire. He starts it off, can't stop me even if they stop me. Before that he had Carter 1, which had Bring It Back, Go DJ. Go DJ was probably the first song that I heard by Lil Wayne. And then Fireman. And he put out so much music between 2000 and 2009. It was ridiculous. Like he had No Ceilings mixtape. He had The Leak. He had Dedications. He had Drought 1, 2, 3. And I mean, he had
Carter 1,
an incredible, Carter 1, 2, 3. I mean, just all of that in one decade is crazy, and every single one of those had at least like one big song. I feel like I'm Me from The League, Sky's the Limit, We Taking Over. Shout out DJ Khaled. Like that dude makes hits.
Your explanations here just don't add up with it. Just with him being all the way down at 4. I mean, that's what I'm gonna say about that. I can't. I don't have anything negative to say about the rapper himself. I have negative things to say about where you put him, though. That's just.
I think he's terrible.
Oh my goodness!
You didn't make mine at all.
Terrible.
Wow.
That's
I mean,
interesting.
let's listen
You
to
put
some.
Missy Elliott, but you didn't put Lil Wayne. Like,
What
come
a
on.
take.
Let's put some
Bro.
lyrics here. All hail Wheezy. Call it bad weather. Like,
Real
What?
G's moving silence like lasagna, man.
Yeah, come on.
I put up a wall.
You gotta keep that G
and they
real
just
quiet.
wallpaper.
He's all about those metaphors, homie.
Yeah.
Like he brought the metaphors to light 2000, 2009.
My
And you
4-year-old
can't tell me
mega
a
rap.
Millie does not slap. Like when a Millie came out, you turn that bass up to 600 in your car, no matter how shitty speakers you had, the shit was rattling, and you're rocking a Millie like at level 600.
I can't with Lil Wayne.
Ugh. Okay, well then I gotta hear your 4 because I can't imagine who you picked after Missy
Oh,
Elliott and
you can't
dissing
be
on
mad.
Lil Wayne.
You can't be mad at my number 4 though. It's a local favorite.
Oh, okay, I know who you're going
Tech
with.
9.
Tekanina.
I think what was my first one? I'm a Tell. That was my first song I ever heard of his. I think when I was maybe 2005 or 2004 in high school.
Yeah.
Driving home, I remember hearing that. Or one of the guys that was like 25 at work introduced him to me while I was 16. I love me some Tech 9, and even now he's crossed over to some rock, and I love everything he puts out.
He's been putting out music forever, and
Yeah.
I mean, being a local guy, I had him like on my list of possibilities. I mean, he's the largest. Like, he started the independent rap game, and didn't sign with a major label. Like, he still is independent and killing it. And I feel like he paved the way for a lot of the independent rappers like Chance and Macklemore to some extent, I guess. But
Yeah.
I mean, those are the bigger independent guys that I can think of right off the top that like made some kind of moves nationally. But yeah, I love Tech 9. Worldwide Choppas. I know that's not the 2000, 2009, but that's like
Right.
the epitome of his style of rap to me, just coming straight with it as fast as he possibly can. And he's done a lot of great collabs too. Like he's collabed with him, he's collabed with Kendrick. I mean,
He reminds me of like the
Good
old
stuff.
school Crossroads and Bone
Oh,
Thugs
yeah,
and
for
Harmony
sure.
type.
no doubt.
I haven't listened to a lot of Tech Nine, admittedly. I mean, a few songs, the big ones, but not like his whole discography. Like some of the guys, like everybody in my top 5, and pretty much most of the honorable mention too. So he didn't really make my consideration because he wasn't somebody I listened to a bunch.
I'm
Yeah.
a player. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Gosney, what's your number 3?
My number 3, Luda.
That's a good pick.
Luda. I think we're between Luda and Lil Wayne. Maybe they you can't have both on your picks.
That may be, I suppose. But like Luda, how many bangers did he really have?
Well, Southern Hospitality, Roll Out, What's Your Fantasy?
I think
Yeah.
for Luda, he had those hits, the ones that hit the chart, but he didn't have the good albums like some of the
Yeah,
other
I agree on that.
greats of that era. I was looking at it, and he was like, there were like 3 guys tied for the most number ones during that time, and then I think Luda was had the second most, so 4th
Yeah.
number ones for 2000, 2009. So he had a lot of great single songs, but I don't think the albums themselves were quite as good.
Yeah, I had him on my maybe honorable mentions list. I ended up taking him off my HMs even, just because I felt like I only knew those big hits, and I never felt like I could really listen to his album straight through like I can with like Carter 3, for example, or Get Rich or Die Trying. So that's what precluded him from getting on my list. All right, so my number 3 is someone I feel is, although very popular, super underrated. If that even makes any kind of sense, and it's T.I. I absolutely love T.I. Like, I have probably an issue with how much I really like T.I.'s music. I was all about that Southern rap for a while, And T.I. was like the epitome of that for me. And he just had so many hits, and he put out music so consistently. It's a lot like Lil Wayne for me. Like T.I. put out trap music in 2003, Urban Legend in 2004, King in 2006, T.I. versus T.I.P. 2007, Paper Trail in 2008. Then he put out No Mercy, which didn't make the list because it's in 2010, but that's actually up there with T.I. versus T.I.P. for my favorite T.I. album. And on every single one of those albums, he had super hot bangers that are just playable to this day, in my opinion. Rubber Band Man, 24's Bring 'Em Out, You Don't Know Me, What You Know, which was like my high school ringer for 3 years on my LGV flip phone. Like Why You Wanna, Big Things Poppin', What You Know About Touchdown. Like you could just play. I was listening to it when I was making my list, and like I played 25 straight T.I. songs, and I didn't skip any because they're just awesome. So T.I. is my number 3. And that was, I actually had Lil Wayne above T.I. at one point, but then when I started like doing my research and really listening to their discographies and going through it and listening to their albums over and over, I'm like, dude, this guy put out 5 albums in a row, like almost every single year for that entire decade. And I like at least 4 or 5 strong songs off each one of them. So I went with T.I. for number 3.
I like T.I. and to, for the sake of not spoiling anything, I won't say whether or not he's above or on the list or didn't make the list, but I still can't get over him your Wayne position just really messes with me, and having T.I. over Wayne just still can't get over it.
That's just a personal preference thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really like, that southern deep bass, like bumpy music, like lowrider type shit. So that's number 3 for me. All right, you're number 3, Wes.
3, Eminem.
M is 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what it came down to for me was my 1, 2, and 3 were locks for my 1, 2, and 3, the position. But
if the listener could see my face when you said that,
I know Seth loves him some M. So the 1, 2, and 3 were gonna be on my list. Whether or not, I didn't know for sure what was gonna be 1, 2, or 3. I was gonna have to look and see what fell in 2000 to 2009, honestly. And it came down to me, what just missed in 1999 and 2010 for M. Those are 2 of my favorite pieces of his work that didn't fall in the decade. So it's like that's what moved him to 3 for me. He was originally going to be 2, I'll be honest with you, but 2 of my favorite projects from him weren't in the frame. So it's just like I'm not going to count that as part of this. But he still had the Marshall Mathers LP. He still had Encore. He still had Relapse. So, I mean, he still had some great stuff in 2000, 2009, but just not all of it. So that's why he fell at 3 for me. I know he's gonna more than likely be at the top of your list, Seth. I know you love you some M, and so that's like with me. I'm trashing where you had Wayne. You can trash where I had M.
I've trashed you for your M take for a long time now. I already know who you have at 1 and 2 now that you said that. So it's like just waiting on who you have in what position. But I mean, I'll talk about M here in a little bit, so we can skip over to your number 2. Unless Gosney's got something to weigh in on that.
Nope. I will also talk to him
selection.
A little later. So.
All right, my number 2, Kanye. I think 2000, 2009 Kanye is easily the best Kanye. That I personally don't like some of the later Kanye. Me and Seth have had some arguments about that as well. But I think College Dropout, Late Registration, 808s and Heartbreaks, Graduation, some of that set right there alone is his best work in my opinion. I don't really like Pablo. I don't like some of the other later stuff of his. So, but I think for me, Kanye's work during 2000, 2009 puts him above him. Kanye was going to be 3, M was going to be 2, just off the top of my head. But when I looked at what fell, that flip flop those two.
Yeah. So, no further ado, Kanye is my number 2 also. So, just to kind of echo what you said, College Dropout, like I was talking about 50's freshman album, like on a major label. And for Kanye, I mean, that's right up there too, as far as strong albums go. Through the Wire, All Falls Down, Jesus Walks, Slow Jams, Workout Plan, like that's some back-to-back shit. Late Registration, though, honestly, I felt like, of course, it's probably not going to hit the same heights as College Dropout. It's just like that sophomore slump. I didn't feel like it was as good. I mean, it had some good songs, Gold Digger, Hey Mama, Touch the Sky, but then he made the comeback with Graduation, right? So he had Champion, Stronger, Good Life, Can't Tell Me Nothing, Flashing Lights, and then kind of completely switched up the whole game when he went 808s and Heartbreaks, which I know a lot of people who don't like that album, and I really like that album, actually. It's one of probably my third or fourth favorite Kanye album, and he's put out so many. That's pretty high up there in my opinion.
And he had one that just missed a decade with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Yeah, really and if that made the decade, he'd probably still be where he is for me, but it would just be like a stronger pick for number 2.
Yeah, and that one with him, both of those just had some good stuff that just missed a decade, and that definitely hurts their cases. But he wouldn't have come to number 1 for me.
My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is like one of the best rap albums of all time, in my opinion. I think it's amazing. So it definitely would have made him like a 1B, but he's not grabbing the top spot. All right.
I don't know why.
Number 2.
I never listened to Kanye much. I don't know why.
Really?
I mean, yeah, I had nothing against him. I don't even know much about him, really.
I don't know how you
I listened to what he had on the radio.
If you ever listened to the radio, yeah.
I listened to what was on the radio, but that was it.
Yeah.
No, my number 2, I went with Nelly for my number 2. That's
Nelly.
Just, yeah. I don't know. You take a speaker to any youth baseball or soccer park and have some Nelly playing, and every mom and dad there's out dancing and singing and following.
Getting hot in here.
Yeah. But I took Nelly.
Nelly's a solid pick for the list. He made my honorable mentions.
And he was one of those that had a lot of those chart toppers during the decade, but I think still was able to compile the good albums, the good records, whatever you want to call it, with those chart toppers. So it's like the full body of work was good while having the songs that still get played to this day.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you,
solid pick.
Sweatsuit was like my dad's first rap album he actually listened to. He like stole the CDs from me and he'd play them in his truck because I think it had that Tim McGraw song on it, like on the Suit side. So I think that kind of opened his doors up to.
And Sweatsuit itself definitely wasn't my favorite of his.
No,
that Tim McGraw song was a bop.
Well, I thought it was a cool project just in general because he kind of had like the softer R&B side on the Suit, and he had the more rugged, normal, what I would call like normal Nelly on the Sweat side. So it was kind of cool.
And it was cool that he had that range too to be able to do both of those things.
All right, Gosney, you're number 1.
Probably the same as yours, Eminem.
For sure.
I feel like I don't have to say a whole lot more.
Right?
I mean,
like my notes on M are so short because I don't feel like I need to really explain why he's number 1.
I mean, even when you talk about doing some R&B and really some hardcore, like hard rap, I think there's nobody anywhere close.
I mean, I'm a suburban. I mean, just take it at what it is, right? Like I'm a suburban white kid, and Eminem was like the first introduction I had to like kind of the dark side of things. And they played his stuff on the radio, and at the time, I just thought it was dope music. I had no idea what the hell he was really referencing in these songs, in whatever grade I was in, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. I lived that sheltered life there for a while. Eminem helped me break out of that a little bit or a lot of bit. But yeah, Eminem just, as far as like mainstream music goes, by far, and maybe even outside of just mainstream, for me, the best lyricist by far. I mean, he has so many double, triple, quadruple entendres in his lyrics. He's got interior raps, exterior raps, rhymes. Just like he changes the rhyme pattern so often, but it's so fluid. I mean, I've watched probably not a healthy number of like Eminem rap breakdowns just about his lyricism and about his rhyme flow and his. So he has the best-selling rap album of all time, 2 Diamond Records, which is the only rapper who can say that. I just like, I don't even have to talk about the actual songs. People know the songs, right? But yeah, M's by far number one for me. Like I said, even with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy for Kanye, it wouldn't have changed my mind for number one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I agree with you, best lyricist. But and I would have had him too. Like I said earlier, I think he was one of my 2 or 3 favorites growing up in that era. But I wasn't gonna put him above my one. I just wasn't.
You could not put him above Lil Wayne.
Right.
There's no way you could put him above Lil Wayne.
That was just my guy, man. I was a Wayne stan. And yes, I know we get the term stan from your boy M,
which is actually in the dictionary. Thank you, M.
Yep.
Like that takes you to another level when you have a song and it becomes a word that actually gets in the dictionary.
But I don't have any arguments against Wayne. I mean, against M being either of your tops. It makes complete sense. But
I think one of the reasons, sorry to cut you off, Wes, but one of the reasons M is number one for me and probably has just continued to be number one, even though he has, and I'll be completely honest, I'm an M stan, but he's put out some trash stuff. I mean, he really has, and we can all agree to that, and he will admit to that. I think he has on several occasions.
It's a good thing for him that this list was just 2000 to 2009 because
it was right in his.
Let's say post 2010 because recovery, great, 2010. But about then is when it stops.
Yeah, it goes downhill quick. But I probably wouldn't have listened to many of these other guys if M wouldn't have opened the door for me. Just being the time that I was as an adolescent and listening and kind of starting to actually care about what's being said in the songs and making a connection to, you're an emotional teenager. Everybody goes through kind of like that emo stage, and M was right there alongside all my like little punk rock crap that I used to listen to as a tween. But yeah, so that's one of the reasons he's number one for me, because he kind of opened the door for me. And now it's my number one listen to genre is rap. So, but anyway, tell us more about Lil Wayne and how great he is, Wes.
So yes,
New Orleans.
My number one. It's a big secret. Lil Wayne. I mean, as far as discography for the 2000-2009, Seth touched on it earlier. The quantity is just insane, and on top of it, it's all quality. There's nothing in there that I didn't listen to and still don't go back to now. And on top of that, on top of things that were released, there's so many mixtapes, so many tapes, so many just. I mean, and then he got bored and just decided to start Young Money at the end of the decade, and just start a bunch of other rappers' careers by being on these songs with them. So I mean, and one that obviously couldn't make that decade's list, but would be number one on the next decade's list for me, came from Young Money and came from Wayne. Like, so it's just
Nicki Minaj.
Yes, exactly her.
right up there with Missy Elliott.
For those who don't know that, I'm talking about Drake there. But no, Carter 2, Carter 3, Rebirth, and then Carter and Carter 2 had Chopped and Screwed, Screwed and Chopped.
Mm-hmm.
Just so many good songs, and I mean that doesn't even include like all the mixtapes. Were some of the mixtapes were my favorite stuff. Like that.
Yeah.
Some of that was
No Ceilings is one of my favorite mixtapes,
so
personally.
it's just I think the body of work he was just my favorite, but the body of work itself was
he put out
the
like
best of the decade.
hundreds and hundreds of songs in that decade. So yeah, that was one of my reasons that I know I actually had him pretty low for you, but that's like I said earlier, one of the reasons I just really like T.I.'s stuff, and he put out a lot of stuff too. He didn't have all the mixtapes and as much as Wayne put out, but they both, I felt, put out like tons of music in that decade, which really helped bolster him. The more you throw at the dartboard, the more likely you're going to hit it. So,
but he didn't miss much.
No, he did not.
I mean, for me, even with the crossover into like the rap rock, I still enjoyed that. I know there are people that don't like that sector of his career. I still enjoyed it. So I nothing bad to say about him.
What was the name of that album he put out that was like mostly guitar?
I Am Not a Human Being.
Yep, I think that
was 2010, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah.
I know it didn't fall in the decade because I didn't, on the discography list I was looking at, I didn't see it. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's I'm Not a Human Being was the
had
one.
that album, had them all, but
yeah. All right, so I'll recap my top 5 then and go over who I kind of thought about for some honorable mentions. So 5 was 50 Cent, 4 was Nelly, 3 was Eminem, 2 Kanye, 1 the GOAT Lil Wayne, and then
look like a GOAT Lil Wayne.
My honorable mentions that I kind of thought about, T.I. was the first honorable mention. He was one that I definitely considered for that 5 spot there, but just missed the cut. Bow Wow was another one that I thought about.
Oh my God.
No.
Thank you for not saying that.
No, come on now. When you talk about the hits.
Marion was on my list.
No, let's talk about the hits. Nobody had more hits from 2000, 2009 than Bow Wow. Not a single person. But he didn't have the
more hits?
As far as the top charts, I promise you nobody. He was the tied for the most. I promise.
Trash.
But he
was like 12 years old. He's like your age.
The records weren't great, but he had I want to say 7 number ones in the decade. I believe that's what him, T.I., and one other had. Pretty sure. You can fact check me, but
I'm about to.
All right, go right ahead. It was probably from Wikipedia, and he probably owned the page. So
he had 7. Yep.
There you go. And then I would say the next on that list was Luda. I
would like to say most of these songs, I mean, just all but one were featuring somebody else or he was featured on. He only had one song that was a number 1 that was just him. I feel like that matters. So.
It does, and that's, I mean, his records weren't great. That's it. It's just somebody I thought about based on the hits.
I Think They Like Me is definitely them Franchise Boys. Like that ain't got nothing to do with Bow Wow. It's all about the Franchise Boys.
All right, we over Bow Wow. Let's keep going down the honorable mention list. After that was Luda, and then T-Pain, and then I know he wasn't in the decade for long, but he still was somebody that I thought about just squeaking in. Drake. He had some stuff in 2009, so I was just like, just on that alone, can I squeak him in?
Just on the fact he was alive, we're gonna put him in there.
He was making music in 2009.
He was making Comeback Season in 2007 or whatever it was, and nobody listened.
Forever was 2009, so I mean that's
who bodied Forever. Huh? I think that was M. I'm pretty sure M bodied Forever.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'll go over my top 5 and my honorable mentions. Number 5, 50 Cent. Number 4, Lil Wayne. 3, T.I. 2, Kanye. 1 is M, Mr. Marshall Mathers. So I know people are really probably going to dog on us that we didn't include this guy on the list, any of us, but Jay-Z made my honorable mentions. When I listen to rap, I have to really enjoy the person's voice, and I really have just never gotten with Jay-Z. I had the Black Album, which wasn't in this decade. That's probably my favorite Jay-Z album. So luckily it wasn't in this decade. He might have contended, but probably not for number 5. But Jay-Z's up there. It's actually kind of moving to nowadays. I know that Kendrick Lamar makes some really, really good music, but I just cannot get with his voice for some reason. There are only very few songs I can really mess with Kendrick. So another honorable mention, Andre 3K. You know, that Outkast, they had tons of hits, and his lyricism is just insane. Like, great. I care about that. DMX was on my list. Woo, woo. That's my boy. I used to play basketball with my dude Freddie up the street all the time. We listened to DMX and Luda, but Luda did not make my honorable mentions. Nelly made honorable mention for me. And then kind of my off-the-cuff honorable mention, which you can all hate me. It's fine, and he might not even count, but Mike Shinoda is on my honorable mentions. Linkin Park has 3 of the top-selling albums of the entire century. And they wouldn't be who they are without a little bit of rap in them. And if you haven't heard Fort Minor, The Rising Tide, I don't mess with you because that's a great album.
Oh my!
So he was like my fringe honorable mention pick right there. So
yeah, you probably
Linkin Park, Linkin Park wouldn't be Linkin Park without a little bit of rap flair in there, and he's the one who brought it. So him and Mr. Han on the tables.
Yeah,
I'm crying.
For your sake, I think I'm
of
going to cut that.
That's fine.
I think I'm going to cut that.
It's an honorable mention, so it don't count.
I make fun of yours, but I'm pretty sure I have some that can make you laugh a little bit here too.
Yeah, like Missy.
All right. Hey, I'm sorry you guys didn't even think about a female rapper in here. All right, so 5.
Very progressive of you.
5, we have Missy Elliott. 4, we have Tech 9 from Kansas City. 3, Ludacris. 2, Nelly. And number 1, same as Seth, Eminem. All right, so some of my honorable mentions. Ja Rule.
Oh,
Ja Rule.
We're talking about the day and he mentioned Ja Rule, and I was like, oh gosh, I hope nobody picks him. I said, I'm gonna roast them if they do, just off the Fire Festival alone.
I'm telling you, he would my boy Freddie would throw a little Ja in there with that DMX and that Luda. So, I mean, I listened to Ja. I had a Ja album, but yeah, he definitely didn't make it anywhere near my list.
I didn't really listen.
I'd rather have like Chingy on that list or some shit. Daquan.
Yeah,
I got Chingy on here too.
Oh shit! One call away, baby.
I also put Outkast.
Outkast is a good one. I did think about Outkast. They didn't make with my honorable mention. I try to keep it to 5 as well, and they were one that I thought about initially, but didn't make it in that 5. But I like Outkast a lot, and Andre 3K
I feel like
falls right in that too.
See, and I was thinking of them as 2 separate rappers, honestly, like Big Boy and Andre, and they kind of split for me because there are some songs I really like Big Boy's flow even more than Andre's. Andre probably always still has the better lyrics.
Yeah.
Not always, but most of the time. I think if I were
to pick one, it would like pick Andre or pick Outkast. I would pick Andre as a whole, but still like his music.
My last honorable that
he's getting quiet. He's like, I don't want nobody to hear that.
just my wife said everyone would make fun of me, but Shaggy. I'm a Shaggy fan.
Oh my God.
Scooby-Doo.
I'm a big Shaggy fan.
Oh shit! Tell me you don't still listen to Shaggy.
Yeah, I do.
Like on purpose?
And my kids are so impressed that I know all the words.
They're impressed by Shaggy?
Yeah.
Have they ever heard anyone else besides Missy Elliott and Shaggy?
Well, in their minds,
and
I mean, Shaggy's like a hardcore rapper to them.
Oh God, they didn't have M to break through for him.
That's
like
right.
I did.
I'm not ready to allow them to listen to M yet. 12's the oldest.
M was like, get me pissed off before my sporting events music. Like, blare it up to 1 million on my headphones and just get pissed off at the world.
Yeah.
Take it out on the opponent. So, that might actually help your kids up their baseball game if you let them listen to a little M. Take it out on the ball.
Pre-game Eminem just for some pump music. And, like, the weird thing about this decade for me is, like, that was I was still in middle school and high school for most of this decade, and like I was a very sheltered kid as far as like strict parents and stuff. So it was like I was like pirating this music and putting it on my iPod without them knowing it, because they wouldn't let me listen to this type of music. Like they were like, that's bad music, and like you don't need to listen to that stuff and all that. So I was like pirating this music and putting in my iTunes library, and
your Bear Share account was like
it
overflowing.
It's the Napster era.
I think I was using LimeWire. I think that was mine.
Yep, LimeWire.
I was getting that music however I could, because I love to listen to it.
I heard a couple clicks. I think the feds are listening. So that is our list. It sounds like our top 5 favorite rappers from the 2000 to 2009 era. Thanks again for coming on the show, Andrew. Appreciate you bringing up the topic, suggesting the topic. It was one that I really enjoyed, kind of getting to reminisce about and make. It was some really tough decisions for me, so it was a good one.
Thanks for having me.
When I was going through my list, I went to each of the 10 that I had Spotify pages and just scrolled through their albums and just listened, and that was a lot of fun to go back and revisit some of this stuff that I hadn't listened to in a little bit. So it was a fun one to do research for.
Yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate it. It was fun.
So that wraps up this episode. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to 5 Over Friends. Thanks again, Andrew, for being on the show. Be sure to get in our Instagram stories to vote for who you think had the best top 5 rappers of the 2000s, and to suggest some more topics so you can join us on the show, come in here and debate, and maybe get trashed a little bit for picks like Missy Elliott. So, all right, thanks everyone. We're out.
Later.
Hey guys, it's Seth. When Wes and I decided to start our podcast, we used Anchor because it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And they'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's essentially everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thanks for supporting our show, 5 Over Friends.
We hope you'll join us next week as we debate a new topic.
Don't forget to submit topics on our latest Instagram post for a chance to be our next guest debating your top 5.
Subscribe, rate the show, and share with your friends to help us grow.
See y'all next week.